I think we're live now. Cool. Just check that the sound levels are okay. Jenny, can you hear us okay? I hope so. Okay, let's start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lunchtime Live. It's been a while since I've done one of these. If you've not met me before, hello, I'm Adrian. I work in the comms team here at Free Agent. And I'm joined by Emily, who is our wonderful chief accountant. Absolutely expert in sort of small business and freelancing, accounting, bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. Basically, all the things that we're going to be talking today. As I said, we work for Free Agent, which is online accounting for small businesses and freelancers. And as it's the start of the new tax year at the moment, April is the start of the new tax year, many businesses run their accounts parallel to the new tax year. We thought this was a perfect opportunity to have a session all about how to get your books and your bookkeeping and your accounting in order to coexist with that.
Indeed.
So with all these things coming into effect, so that's the new accounting year, new tax year, new payroll year. It's actually a great time to get everything else sorted in your business and to ensure that your accounts are in order for the rest of the next 12 months ahead. Right. So over the next half an hour, we're going to be discussing a few sort of best practice tips for bookkeeping and accounting. It's kind of highlighting some of the key financial reports that you need to be checking throughout the year to keep your business finances on track. And obviously, we'll be taking any of your questions as well. There should be a Q&A tab just to the left here, which you can see. If you click on that, you'll get a text box that comes down the right-hand side of the page here, and just write your question down. If you've got something you'd like to ask us that you would like to know about getting your accounting in order, or some best practice tips to just get you in a better shape this year, then just write it down and we will answer them as they come in.
We certainly will.
But I think the best thing to do is probably go through this in kind of a uniform way and say, right, okay, if I am a small business owner into my new accounting and tax year, and I'm looking to just improve things a little bit better, kind of what's the first thing that I should be really doing to get my accounts in shape?
Great. Okay. Well, the first thing I'd advise you to do is make sure that you're starting with firm foundations. So have a look at last year and make sure that everything you need to get done for last year you have done. So did you send out all your invoices? Have you tracked all your expenses? Are you confident that your bank balance as at the end of March or beginning of April, whichever date you're using for your year end, are you confident that the bank balance in your accounts matches what's actually in your bank account? Because if you're starting on shaky foundations, then it's going to be that much harder. So do carry out those few little checks. Have you sent all your invoices? Have you tracked all your out-of-pocket expenses? Does your bank account balance? That's important. Are you on top of all your bills? Do you know what you've got to pay and when, both to suppliers and to the taxman? Do you know what's coming up? So make sure that you've got that picture in your mind and then look to move on and start this year's bookkeeping.
Okay. I suppose one of the kind of the obvious questions to ask here is, what should a good bookkeeping system look like? What should what should the ideal be that you're kind of striving towards?
Do I say Free Agent at this point?
You can do, but going wider.
Yeah, certainly. Well, a good bookkeeping system is going to look a bit like this. It's got to be easy to use. There's no point having a bookkeeping system that's really, really difficult to use, because that, if you're a business owner, Adrian, and your books were really difficult to do, would you bother doing them, or would you just put them off and put them off and put them off?
I'm not going to answer that.
Cheat.
But yeah, no, probably put them off. No, me, I would put them off.
It's not just you, Adrian. I think anybody, any business owner would put them off if doing the books was difficult. If, oh gosh, where do I put this? And oh crumbs, what am I supposed to do with that? And oh goodness, I can't even get into my account. I've forgotten my password. If you're struggling every single time, then you're not going to do your books regularly. So it's got to be easy to use. It's got to be safe. There's no point risking putting your books somewhere where they're not safe. And by that, I mean, not only should the system you use be secure, but also the computer that you're doing it on. So how secure is that free Wi-Fi connection down at Starbucks? Would it be a good idea to maybe get yourself a mobile dongle to use when you're doing your accounts? How safe is the software you're using? So has it got encryption like online banking? Nearly all online accounting software packages do have. Free Agent certainly does, because it's really, really important to take the safety of your data seriously. But if you're using a desktop accounting package or indeed spreadsheets, then the concern is if everything's on the one computer, then what happens if that computer's lost, stolen, broken, corrupted, whatever? Your books could be lost. So if you are not using online software, then make sure that you're backing up regularly. So it should be easy to use, it should be secure. There also shouldn't have to be any duplication of data entry. So for example, if you have a business, Adrian, and you send me an invoice, if I'm your customer, your system should automatically not only send the invoice, but it should add that to the list of customers who owe me money. You shouldn't have to go away to another list and write Emily Coltman X £100. It should do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it should also produce useful information for you to see. It's no good at producing a whole screed of reports if those aren't actually going to be useful for your business. It should show you quickly and easily information that's useful for your business, like what money's coming in and going out of the bank account, what tax bills you can expect to pay in the near future, things like that. That should all be at your fingertips. You shouldn't have to go digging about in a catacomb-like series of reports to find it. Also, it should really help you work well with your accountant. If you've got a good bookkeeping system, it should be possible for you and your accountant to view the same data at the same time. Because with traditional bookkeeping software that sits on just one computer, or let's say you're using an ordinary spreadsheet to track your books, what can happen is that you can have one version that the business owner's got, and then say I'm your accountant, you send me a copy of your spreadsheet, I look at it, I do some work on it, I correct a formula here and I tweak a line there, but your version hasn't got those changes on, and while I've made those changes, you're also making changes because you're still doing your books. So what we can get there is two different versions, and neither of them is current because neither's got all the changes. So it starts getting really, really difficult. And so if you use a system that enables you and your accountant to view the same data at the same time, the whole accountant-client relationship changes. Your accountant can actually be watching you as you go almost. I had a client who was based in Staffordshire, I'm based in Cumbria, and every quarter he would send me a text message to say he was about to do his VAT return. I would log in and watch him post his expenses. I could be sitting in my office in Cumbria regularly refreshing the page and watching him post his expenses, and if he did something wrong, I'd be straight on Skype or text to him and saying, Bob, why have you just put something into staff entertaining? You don't have any staff, that belongs in business entertaining. But I could do that in real time at the same time as he was posting his expenses. So it can revolutionize your relationship with your accountant, because your accountant can be saying, for example, Adrian, you've not made that much profit on this particular project. Are you giving the customer a discount? Right, put your prices up. Or, Adrian, your bank charges look really, really high. Has your bank just changed its pricing policy? What about moving bank accounts? Your accountant can be a proactive, trusted advisor. So those are some pointers about what a good bookkeeping system might look like.
Okay. Moving on a little bit, I know we've got a question through from Simon at the moment, right now. We will get to that. I'm just going to, I think, have another sort of 5 minutes just to concentrate a bit more on the sort of the makeup and the kind of the day-to-day, week-to-week kind of stuff that, that you do in your bookkeeping. I suppose next question for me is kind of how often should you be managing, inverted commas, your books? How often should you be going in to to check and to actually input stuff and to keep on top of it?
At least once a week.
Right.
At least once a week. I mean, our recommendation is that if you put aside 1 hour every week and make it the same time slot every week, make it a good habit to do your books. One thing I used to do when I was at university was the course I hated most of all. I actually scheduled the lesson for that for Monday morning so that I could get it over and done with at the beginning of the week. I'd go and have the class, go away, do the homework. and then I could forget about it for the rest of the week. So if you really, really, really cannot stand doing your books, that's one approach you could take. But pop a slot in the diary, make it the same one every week, Monday morning, Friday afternoon, Wednesday lunchtime, whenever's going to suit you best. Put aside an hour and do your books. Send your invoices, track your expenses, make sure that you've explained all your bank transactions, so you've told the software what each of your bank transaction is. Why do it so often? Well, for one thing, for sending invoices, it means that the more often you send invoices, the more likely your customers are to pay you. If you leave it till month end to send your invoices, you're doing yourself out of cash in the interim. In terms of expenses, money that you've spent yourself on business costs, the longer you leave it before you track them, the more likely you are to miss them out entirely. And that means that not only could you potentially miss out on getting money back from your business, but your business is going to pay too much tax, and that is not good news. I'm not advocating tax avoidance, but nobody wants to pay more tax than they have to. And if you miss out costs, you are going to do that. And the third important point is track what's coming in and out of your bank account, explain what each transaction is. So you say, for example, this receipt belongs to this invoice, this payment belongs to that bill, that payment was a debit card payment at Staples for some stationery, whatever it may be. Tell the software what each one is, but it's important to do that while it's fresh in your mind, because you might well remember what happened in the last week, you won't remember everything that happened in the last month, and you certainly can't remember everything that happened in the last year. When I was training as an accountant, I worked in practice, and quite often we'd get papers from clients, for example, checkbook stubs that said simply the amount, and you phone up the client and you say, what was that for? And they say, I don't know. So if you don't know, then it may well end up that the accountant can't put it in your accounts, and you'll end up not being able to get tax relief on it. You can't use it to reduce the reduce the profit that you pay tax on. And again, that's not good news. So it's important to keep track of it on a regular basis so that you're paying the right amount of tax, and so that you've got useful financial information about your business. If there's holes in your financial information, you won't know everything that's going on. So for example, if I'm not explaining my receipts to my invoices, I might think that Adrian hasn't paid me when he has, and I might end up phoning Adrian and say, why haven't you paid me? I have. And then he's not going to be very happy with me, is he? Because he's going to be thinking, well, if she can't track that I've paid her, what else is she not doing properly? So that's going to damage your relationships. And also, if you're not tracking all your costs, then you might think your business is earning more than it actually is. And you might end up, for example, going on doing a particular service or producing a particular product when that's actually costing you more to sell it than you're earning from it, which isn't good news at all. So that's why you really do need up-to-date, accurate financial information. It's not just for the revenue.
Yes. And I think as well, you were talking earlier on about making things a habit. I think that's very, very important too. It's not necessarily just the stuff that you do in your hour a week, but it's it's a simple 2-minute things that you do as you go along as well. Quite
right. Because for example, if you are traveling on business to visit a client, let's say you're going by train. You pay for your train ticket using your personal credit card, so that's an out-of-pocket expense. So what you can do is, when you're standing on the station waiting for the train, or you're sat in the coffee shop on the station waiting for the train, get your ticket, get your phone, go into your free agent account on your phone and track that expense straight away. Record it in My Money Expenses, because you paid for it on a personal credit card. Take a photograph of the ticket, upload it, attach it to the expense. You can do that as you're recording the expense on Free Agent. Then you've got the entry in, you've got the cost recorded in your accounts, you've got the proof recorded, the ticket, the photograph. HMRC are happy to accept photographs of tickets as proof of purchase. And then if the exit barrier at the other end of the journey swallows your train ticket, no problem, you've still got the proof of it. Whereas if you didn't do that sort of on the go in real time, if the barrier at the other end eats your ticket, you might completely forget about it. Or you might forget what that journey was for. You might, for example, go down to London, but you might not remember that that was to see a client. You might forget whether it was to do that or to go and see Great Auntie Mavis. And you could well end up missing out costs that actually were for your business because you thought they weren't. So it makes sense to do it on the go.
Definitely. Also, we've got we do have a blog post about HMRC accepting scanned receipts as well,
yes, we do.
which will, Jenny, if you can upload that through onto the main page, we'll put that up. Also, we have another post about expenses, following on a little bit about what Emma was saying about making sure that you record quickly and do it while it's fresh in your mind. I'd also stress that it doesn't matter sort of how big or how small those expenses are as well. We did some research a good few years back with YouGov, where we actually asked people how much, what was the smallest amount of expense that they'd actually claimed for, and there's a huge amount of people that say that they wouldn't claim something that was under £10, just because it was, which was because it was too much of a hassle, because it was it was too complicated, they didn't want to, they had better things to do. But as Emily says, that all adds up. If you have 100 of those, it's it immediately goes into hundreds of pounds. Yeah. And we actually did some other data mining in our own system and found out that actually one of the most one of the most important expenses and one of the most popular expenses is £0 to £10. Exactly. There's about a third of expenses that go through free agent are that size. Yes. So it really, really is important. And if you make that a habit to do that, then it's you're only going to help yourself in the long term. Plus, it means that you don't have a huge big bundle of receipts that you wait until the year end to do as well.
And then that becomes a huge, enormous task. It's the kind of task you put off and put off and put off. It's like the spring cleaning, the kind of thing that really isn't pleasurable to do. Whereas if you do it in little bites, then it becomes much easier to manage. So it's the old adage about eating an elephant: you do it a bite at a time. If you do it as you go along, then it becomes much less of a task. Yeah.
Excellent. I think, okay, what we're going to do is we have two questions now, so I'm going to delve into these and then we'll bring it back through to talk about some of the kind of the non-weekly, non-hourly kind of stuff that you need to do. So we'll take these first. And the first one we'll take from Simon, who's been waiting a while. He says, if I have enabled bank feeds, how do I change dates on some of the items to pull them into the appropriate year?
Okay, hi Simon. What I would recommend you do, rather than changing the dates of the bank transactions, is if it's a cost. So, for example, if you incurred a cost, say a mobile phone bill at the end of March, let's say, and the direct debit didn't go through to the middle of April, what you do in free agent is put in a bill for the mobile phone cost, and you date that as at the end of March. And then when you get the transaction coming through in April, do bill payment. Don't explain it as a payment for internet and telephone, because you've already accounted for the phone cost when you put the bill in. Instead, explain that payment as a bill payment. So what that'll do is it'll show that the bill's been paid off and the cost will be in the correct year. So don't change the dates of the transactions, use bills. Or use bills. I was going to say or expenses, but of course it won't be expenses because you're paying for it from the business. Use bills to put that into the right year.
Excellent. Okay, I hope that helps you, Simon. And we'll take this one as well from Ant, who's I assume this is a follow-up through to talk about HMRC accepting scanned receipts and copies. He says, I thought you had to keep originals of receipts for 6 years.
You have to keep copies of receipts for 6 years, Ant. That's a very, very good question, and you're absolutely right. 6 years is the time. There are a couple of different rules. I'll explain those in a sec, but HMRC are quite happy to take soft copies, not hard copies. They say you don't have to keep the originals. You can copy them so long as you make true copies, and so long as they're legible copies that you and HMRC can read. And if you've got something like a bill and it's got terms and conditions on the back, you need to scan both sides. So the kind of receipt you'd be photographing on the go wouldn't have anything on the back, so you're fine with that. But something like a bill, if you're scanning it in, scan the front and back, save that as one file, then upload that as an attachment into free agent. And the only thing you need to keep the originals of, so you need to keep something that's in the same format as you received it, is a document that's got tax on it other than VAT. So that would be something like a bank interest receipt or a dividend voucher. So if you receive them in paper form, you must keep them in paper form. If you were emailed them as a PDF, you must save that PDF. You can't, for example, scan it to microfiche or whatever it might be. You need to keep those documents, the ones that have got something on other than VAT, tax on other than VAT, you must keep the original of those. I said I'd give an example of when something needs to be kept for other than 6 years. If your business is a limited company and the company buys a capital asset, so hopefully, Jenny, if you could pop the definition of capital assets up from our glossary, that'd be brilliant. Briefly, it's a big piece of equipment that the business is going to use for more than a couple of years. So, for example, your chair, computer, something like that. If a company buys a capital asset, you've got to keep the proof of purchase, so something like the invoice. It can be in scanned format, but you've got to keep the invoice for as long as you have the asset and 6 years after that. So you've got to keep it for 6 years after you get rid of the asset. That's that exception. But no, thanks for that question, Ant. That was a good question. Thank you. Yep.
Excellent. And we just had another one coming in from Leah, which is, she says, hi, I've just started with Free Agent, and despite having the simplest accountants on earth, I'm still feeling a little bamboozled. Is it possible to get one-to-one support from Free Agent to double check my setup? I'm based in Edinburgh.
Okay, thanks for your question, Leah. Unfortunately, we wouldn't normally do double checking in person. You can book a 20-minute getting started call with one of our support team. That's completely free of charge when you're in your free trial. That would be done over the phone though, not face to face. So if you go to support, if you go to the Free Agent page, you go to support, go to webinars, you'll find there the chance to book a 20-minute one-to-one getting started call with one of our support team. And as I say, that's free of charge while you're in your free trial. And I hope that could be helpful for you.
Excellent. And if you have any sort of specific questions about about stuff as well, then do say please do get in touch with the support team. You can find the support team's contact details on the website. Briefly, it's email support@freeagent.com. Telephone, which is free, is 0800 288 691. And our support team are all accountants, bookkeepers, people who've run their own business. So they're very, very well placed to help you, Leah. Excellent. And I'd also say as well, we do have a pretty extensive knowledge base up on our website as well. So a lot of the especially the frequently asked stuff about people that are starting off with Free Agent, if you have a look there first, I think we've actually even got an FAQ section specifically designed for that. So do take a look. It's called Knowledge Base, and you'll find that on our website. Hopefully, it's something that will help you. But yeah, I hope that helps you, Leah. Okay, so that's those 2 questions. If anyone else has any, then do pop them in and do keep on asking, and we'll take those as we come. But I think for the next sort of 5-10 minutes, we'll look a little bit more at so the non-weekly stuff that you do. Okay. We've covered the stuff that you do in an hour a week, the things that you do on the go, the things you make a habit of. But yeah, what are the main things that you need to look for your accounting and bookkeeping that aren't covered by that? So sort of other than expenses, invoices, and check your banking. Yeah. The key one is to check any costs that you're going to take credit for. So I mentioned to Simon about using bills in Free Agent. So bills are costs that, for example, you incur with a supplier, say an accountant or a solicitor, or it might be to buy some raw materials that you aren't going to pay for straight away. What it's important to do is keep track of those on a regular basis, perhaps fortnightly, perhaps monthly, depends on what your supplier's payment terms are, and pay them on time. Do make sure you pay them on time, because suppliers really don't like to be kept waiting for their money. It's worth remembering that some of your suppliers might be small businesses themselves, so your bill payment could make all the difference between them being able to pay their tax this month or not, for example. So it's worth thinking on that. It does help with relationships if you can pay your supplier bills early, but obviously don't put a dent in your own cash flow for the sake of that. Just watch out. So perhaps every fortnight, perhaps every month, depending on when your suppliers ask for payment, check your list of unpaid bills. So in Free Agent, you can filter that and you can see which bills are open or overdue. And then you can pay whoever is owed money through your online bank account. The other area to check, perhaps monthly, is whether you've got a tax bill coming up. So perhaps you might have VAT to pay, perhaps you might have some PAYE or national insurance to pay, perhaps you might have an income tax or corporation tax bill. Regularly check your tax timeline, regularly check to see whether you've got money to pay to the tax man, because he really, really, really does not like being kept waiting for tax. You could find yourself having to pay interest and penalties if you pay your tax late, so keep an eye out for that.
And on a similar subject, paying tax often goes hand in hand with filing a tax form of some kind. So, for example, if you're registered for VAT, not only do you have to pay that VAT to HMRC, you also have to file them a return showing how you've worked out how much VAT they can expect to pay. If you just pay them a random amount without filing the form, they don't know if it's the correct sum. So they may well impose penalties for not filing documents on time as well. So make sure that you not only pay your tax on time, but file your forms on time.
Yes, and also, make sure that if you've made a change for your business, such as becoming VAT registered, make sure you know exactly kind of when those when those tax returns are due, and keep a note of them throughout the year as well.
What that entails. You need to know what it entails. If you're, for example, if you're becoming VAT registered, as Adrian says, or if you're recruiting your first member of staff, or if you're changing your business from a sole trader to a limited company, make sure you're aware of the different reporting obligations and make sure you don't miss the deadlines.
I think as well, if you're bringing forward your first employees as well, and you're having to set up your payroll as well, and make sure that you have that sort of down, and you know exactly what you're doing too.
Yes, quite right. We are in the process of creating a white paper about taking on your first employee. I don't think that's
I don't think it's yet,
but it will be.
Excellent. But we do have there's a lot of stuff on our website as well about payroll and about setting up and some of the sort of the key terms on there as well. So do have a look. I suppose, kind of following on from that a little bit, and we may have covered most of this already, but I've got it as my kind of final question here. What are the main sort of reports that I need to be aware of and need to stay on top of?
That's a good question, Adrian. So you need to check your cash flow. I'd say that's key. Look to see what is going in and out of your bank account on a regular basis. If you've got more going out than you have coming in, sooner or later you're going to run out of cash, so watch out for that. Check as well your profit and loss account. All that is a report that shows your business's income less its day-to-day running costs for a given period of time. If you find your running costs are continually outstripping your income, or if you find that you're keeping less profit per pound of sales made than you did last year, which is called your profit margin, and you just get that by dividing your profit by your sales. If you find that that's dropping, then you're keeping less profit per every pound of sale you make, and that means something's wrong. So keep track of that. And also keep an eye on your balance sheet, and all that is a snapshot of what your business owns and what it owes at a given point in time. I think we define both of those in the glossary too, don't we, Adrian? So if we ask Jenny to put those terms up as well, that'd be brilliant. So keep track of what your business owns and owes at a given point in time, because what that will show you is whether if the business turned all its assets into cash, so if all your customers paid you, if you sold off all your equipment, would you have enough to pay what the business owes? If you haven't, if your money owed outstrips the money that you own, then something's wrong.
Okay. Right, we have a couple of questions that have come in from Ant, so I think we'll take these in the final instance, and then probably wrap up after that, if that's okay. So we'll take the first one first to kind of run into each other. So Ant says, I moved into a 2-bedroom flat with the sole purpose of using the second bedroom as an office. I read your infographic on home expenses, which suggests I can only expense a percentage of gas, electricity, broadband, etc., as opposed to a percentage of rent. But another friend says he expenses part of his house. I'm sure you'll recommend that I ask my accountant, but what's your view on this?
Okay, and the reason may well be that your and your friend's situations are different. If your business is a limited company, then you can't expense a proportion of rent. If your friend is a sole trader, he can. I'm afraid the rules are different in that case, and that might well be it. Also, be cautious. You mentioned you're using a second room exclusively for business. Be careful. When you sell your flat, you'll get stung for capital gains tax on that. So I would recommend using the second bedroom full personal some of the time. Perhaps use it as a guest room, perhaps use it as a games room, a music room, whatever it may be, some of the time. But if you try and claim it's 100% for business, when you sell that flat, you're going to have to pay capital gains tax on that proportion.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I hope that helps, Ant.
Yeah. And if you are at all unsure, please do check with your accountant. As I say, that is my interpretation based on what you've told me just then. But your accountant will know much more about your business than I do. So do make sure to ask him or her as well.
And I think that goes for all of this as well.
Yes.
we're giving sort of tax and pointers and hints and stuff, but
Yeah.
if there is anything that you're particularly unsure of or that you really want to get like proper clarity for, it's going to be so much easier and so much more efficient to do that with your accountant.
Yeah.
And Richard says, will this be available as a recording to download later, please? Yes, it is. This actually goes direct onto our YouTube page afterwards. Basically, it's being recorded as we speak, and it gets uploaded automatically because Google Plus just does that. So if you go to YouTube and look for Free Agent, I think it's just Free Agent as one word, then you should be able to find it there. But what we'll do is we'll ping a link through to the YouTube link up on the main page that you came here for, where all of the rest of the things that Jenny's been posting up. We'll put it there as well, so you can all see it. So if you've if you came late to this, then you'll be able to go back and see the whole thing, including the minute at the start where we were testing the volume levels and stuff. So yeah, so hopefully that will help, and you'll be able to see everything that you need there. I think that's probably going to be it for the day. I think that says bang on half an hour. Big thank you very much for coming and watching. It looks like we've had quite a few people that have been watching all the way through. We've had some really good questions, so thank you very much for that. Big thanks to Anne for coming along to this again. We do host, or we try to host, one video Q&A every month. So we'll probably be doing another one at some point in May. So do keep an eye out on our social media pages for that. But we also have weekly text Q&As, which we do over here on Google Plus and also on Facebook as well. They're not, unfortunately, you don't get to see our beautiful faces, but we are still there, and we coordinate them too. And Emily is on hand. So if you have something and you want to just write it and ping it there, then we do answer them. Sometimes we'll have a specific topic that we're covering, like expenses or invoicing or general bookkeeping, but you can really ask anything that you want to over there. We're pretty open, and we will take most questions.
Yes.
So do keep an eye out on all of our social media pages for that. So that's Free Agent on Google Plus, which you should know because you've come here. It's Free Agent app, all one word, on Facebook, and it's at Free Agent, all one word, on Twitter as well. And we do have a LinkedIn profile too, which we post stuff through. So you'll be able to find us in one way, shape, or another. If there's anything that you'd still like to know about general bookkeeping, about getting your accounts in order, do go and have a look at our website, freeagent.com. There is a host of info there on our knowledge base, also on our blog, and we've got a couple of sort of big pages all to do with expenses and invoicing and bookkeeping too. So you should be able to find something of use there. That's it. Oh, and very finally as well, obviously, if you're not using Free Agent yet, please try it. We offer 30-day free trial, no obligation or anything else. So if you like what you've heard, if you want to learn a bit more, just go to the website, have a free trial, have a play around with it, and see if it'll suit you. We hope it will. And if you are already using Free Agent and you love it, which we hope you are as well, remember that we also do have a referral scheme too. So if you know anyone that you think is going to need Free Agent, then let them know. You should have your own referral code, and if you successfully refer them and they come and become a subscriber, they get 10% off their bill, and so do you, for as long as they subscribe with us, and those add on as well. So if you have 10 people that you know and you get them to subscribe to us, you get Free Agent for free. So it's a win-win. We'll put a link through to the referral page too. But that's a sell. Thank you very much, Em. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.